Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2024 presidential election based on the current betting odds on Polymarket, in which Donald Trump retakes the lead in this electoral map. But before we get started, make sure you guys are subscribed, click the bell so you don't miss out my content, press the like button, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget we have memberships, so you can find a link to that in the description section. So as of right now, it is essentially tied. This is a toss-up race, evenly split 50-50 between the two candidates. And this is the current electoral map based off of the betting odds on Polymarket. Let's, review a lot of these important swing states. In my opinion, it comes down to actually 7 real swing states. Obviously, you have the quote-unquote battleground states, which aren't really necessarily real toss-up states in my opinion. For example, Virginia is not really toss-up. It's more considered like a battleground state. I would say the real toss-up is going to be highlighted in yellow: Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina. Those 3 Rust Belt states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Those, in my opinion, are the real deciding factors. And Pennsylvania is going to be the tipping point state. As we all know, whoever wins that state will most likely surpass 270 electoral votes, winning the election. You get the whole idea. So let's start off with the state of Michigan, in which, according to Polymarket, Kamala Harris has roughly 2/3 chance of winning this state. She is leading with its 15 electoral votes. She has a 66% chance to Donald Trump's 34%. Now, it is true that this is a major improvement for the former president, as I believe he was doing way worse in the 2020 election. So there is a realistic chance, with a polling error, that Donald Trump may be able to flip the state. In my opinion, he's not going to. I do have Kamala Harris barely winning the state of Michigan by a tilt margin under percentage point. It's going to be extremely close. But let's take a look at some of the counties in this state. I do think that right off the bat, Trump is going to flip Saginaw County. Keep in mind, it only went to Biden, as you can see right here, by 0.3%. Extremely close. That county would most likely flip. And it is true that you can say the Detroit suburbs here are really trending towards the left, especially with the woman vote. I think it's going to come down to African American support. If Kamala Harris is able to have skyrocket turnout, then maybe she will be able to win the state. And keep in mind, this state was the bluest Rust Belt state in 2020. Michigan voted to the left of both Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Same thing in 2016 and the Obama era as well, which is a main reason why I do have Kamala winning this. But one thing to take into consideration, that there was a large uncommitted vote in this state in the Democratic primaries. Roughly 100,000 voters voted uncommitted, and that's a huge number. 100,000 people voting uncommitted. And I do understand that was against Joe Biden, not Kamala Harris. But you can also argue that Kamala Harris did not even receive a single vote. And when she did run for president in 2020, she did so poor to the point where she had to immediately drop out. And not just Saginaw County as well. I do think Trump is able to hang on to Isabella County as well as improve on his margins, because 2.5 is not enough, obviously. I do think Kamala will be able to narrowly win it, obviously. So she is going to win it according to Polymarket. I do agree with that as well. And then as for the next state of Arizona, Donald Trump actually is winning this state. He's retaking the lead on the entire electoral map because he is winning this electorate. He has a 63% chance, roughly 2/3 of winning the state of Arizona, to Kamala Harris's 37%, with the state's 11 electoral votes. As of right now, I do currently have Donald Trump winning Arizona by a couple points. I do think if I had to make an estimated margin guess, I would say 2%. On election day, Donald Trump will win Arizona, mainly due to the fact that there's a major border crisis in the state, and also Kamala Harris can't address the issue of immigration whatsoever. It's a losing issue for her. The entirety of the state ultimately comes down to one county, and that is Maricopa County. Biden had originally won it by 2%, around there, 2.2 to be exact, for the margin there. But there is a scenario, realistic reality, in which Harris still winds up winning Maricopa, but she actually still loses this state. Donald Trump can still win Arizona as a whole, but still afford to lose Maricopa, and that's only if Harris only wins Maricopa by under 2 percentage points. Biden did win it by more than 2, obviously. So, for example, if she wins Maricopa by only 1 point, that actually might not be enough for her to keep this state blue. She can still win Maricopa by 2, but Donald Trump would still win the state if he improves on his margins in some of these, Republican counties like Navajo. He only won it by 8 points. He's going to have to improve on his margin And there, Yuma is very important. Donald Trump must run up the numbers here, only won it by 6. So yes, he still can lose Maricopa by just a tiny bit. Obviously, if she wins it by like the same amount Biden did, then she's going to win the state. But I don't think that's going to happen, especially considering the polls. Donald Trump is gaining momentum. And right before Biden dropped out, when he was still in the race, Donald Trump was winning the state on average by like a likely margin of 538. Not RCP, but 538 by like 5 to 6 points. So I do think this state will flip back to the former president. But in terms of the future, futuristic-wise, yes, the state is getting bluer. Obviously, they elected Democratic governor Katie Hobbs for the first time since, I believe, like 2009. And also, yes, they do have a Democratic senator. But I think Trump, if he's able to make gains among independents, undecideds on election day, and also there's a lot of John McCain-style voters. People on the right call them neocons. A lot of them broke for Biden in 2020 because he was seen as more of a moderate candidate. I think a lot of them can go for they can go for Donald Trump this time around because they don't view Kamala as someone like moderate as Joe Biden seemed to be in 2020, obviously. And as for the next state, it's going to be Georgia, in which as of right now, Donald Trump is expanding his lead as we get closer to November 5th. He has a 60% chance of winning the state to Kamala Harris's 40%. With its 16 electoral votes, according to Polymarket, Donald Trump is favored to flip the state of Georgia. I do think it's a gimme at this point. I mean, it's a must-win, obviously, but I think it's one of the more easier flips for him because it was the closest state, obviously, in 2020. Margin of 0.2%, roughly 10,000 votes. So I think Donald Trump is more than likely certain to flip the state of Georgia, so let's characterize it as red for him. I think he's going to win it by, like, I would say 2 to 3 points, a lean margin ultimately at the end of the day. Now, if Kamala Harris is able to do the same thing as Joe Biden, have skyrockets among African-American voters in Atlanta, the metropolitan area, the suburbs are very important, especially Fulton County, then I do think she will be able to make the state extremely close, but I do think Biden was so lucky. Obviously, no Democrat has won the state of Georgia since, I believe, Bill Clinton before Joe Biden did in 2020. So I think there was a little bit of luck. Therefore, I do think Trump is going to flip the state, and Polymarket says the same thing as well, obviously, has a 60% chance. And I do think Trump is going to flip Washington County. It only went to Biden by 0.7. That's also probably another gimme win for Donald Trump. And I do expect him to, improve on his margins in Peach County. And I just expect the turnout in Atlanta to drop significantly from where it was in 2020. I don't think Kamala has the enthusiasm as Biden once did. Obviously, there was a lot of COVID. There was major celebrity endorsements going for Joe Biden. That's non-existent this time around, pretty much. And BLM, that's non-existent. Sumter County is extremely important. If Trump winds up flipping Sumter County, then this state is more than likely going to go to Donald Trump by a pretty sizable margin. Sumter only went to Biden by nearly 5 points. If Trump is able to improve and maybe even flip it, then he's more than likely going to flip this state. And so now that we move on to the next state of Wisconsin, according to Polymarket, Donald Trump is going to do better in the Sun Belt, pretty much has that locked under control. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris is narrowly winning most of the Rust Belt states up in the blue wall. Obviously not all of them because we'll get to Pennsylvania later. That's a very interesting state. But as for Wisconsin, this state historically is known to have horrible polling errors. As we all know it, in 2020, they severely underestimated Donald Trump. They had Biden winning this state right before Election Day on average by 6 points. He did not get, nowhere near that. He won it by under a percentage point, just only 20,000 votes. And by the way, that's less of a margin than Trump's victory in this state in 2016. So basically 56% for Kamala Harris, chance of winning this state. She barely has the lead, and I do expect them to overestimate Democrats once again to Donald Trump's 44% with the state's 10 electoral votes. So Kamala would barely win this. I do disagree with this. I do think Trump is going to flip this state, and the main reason why is because Wisconsin was the reddest Rust Belt state of the three in 2020, the complete opposite of Michigan, because Michigan was the bluest, and also in 2016 in the Obama era as well. Wisconsin always votes to the right of both Michigan and Pennsylvania. But according to the polls this time around in this election cycle, surprisingly, it's kind of shocking that Pennsylvania is supposed to vote to the right of Wisconsin, which usually almost never happens. But we take a look at some of these counties in this state. The main reason why Biden won it was because of Milwaukee. He had a record turnout in Milwaukee, and I don't expect that to happen for Kamala Harris. She does not have this Rust Belt appeal, which is why she picked Tim Walz as her VP. Maybe he can carry her over the hump, but I do think Trump can flip a Greene County and only went to Biden by a little over 3 percentage points, as well as flip Sauk County and only went to Biden by nearly 2 percentage points. And Door County is going to be extremely important. I do expect Donald Trump to flip this county and only went to Biden by 1.5 percentage points and run up the numbers in a few of these stronghold Republican counties next to Green Bay as well. And I just don't see how Kamala can have the appeal in Wisconsin. And the only reason, the only way I see her winning the state is because of Tim Walz. And I don't think the VP pick really matters. I don't think it impacts this race whatsoever. Therefore, Trump's going to win it because it was the reddest state up in the Rust Belt in 2020, like I just mentioned earlier. And then as for the next state, it's going to be Nevada, in which according to Polymarket, it's a dead tie, but Donald Trump is barely in the lead, as you can see right here, 50-50 for either candidate with its 6 electoral votes. But yes, he is breaking the tiebreaker, narrowly winning it by a tilt margin. I do have him winning this state by probably somewhere close to 2 percentage points, around the same margin I do have him winning Arizona by. I do think those states are very similar in a way. And we take a look at the county map in the state of Nevada. I do expect him to flip Washoe County. If he does do that, he's more than likely going to flip this state. Biden won it by 4.5 points. I don't think that it's that hard to flip. And if he's able to have skyrocket turnout or improve on his margin in Clark County, obviously he's not going to win this county, the Vegas area. Biden won it by 9.5 points. I do expect him to win this state, especially the Hispanic vote is going to be key. And I think Trump can make gains among Hispanic voters in the Vegas area. So I think that's probably going to happen. He's going to flip Washoe County. And so I do have Donald Trump winning the state of Nevada in 2024. And the last and final state, we have 2 more states, in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. So we take a look at North Carolina with its 16 electoral votes. Donald Trump has a lead, according to Polymarket, but it's less than Georgia, 56% chance to Kamala Harris's 44% in this state. Now, usually this would be shocking because Georgia usually votes to the left of North Carolina, but this time around it's the complete opposite. Just like Pennsylvania is voting to the right of Wisconsin, which it should not be that way, is because I do think that Mark Robinson on the governorship is actually hurting Donald Trump electorally because of his scandals, and he's refusing to drop out. It's going to hurt Donald Trump. It's going to make this race narrower, but that does not mean anything because it's not enough for Kamala to obviously win this state. I do think that the Democrats' best hope of actually winning North Carolina was in 2020, and they literally fell short. Biden was extremely favorable in 2020, and they still could not pull off North Carolina when both Georgia and Arizona flipped to blue to the Democrats. What makes you think North Carolina is going to go blue this time around? I just don't believe it. And even when Biden was still in the race, Donald Trump was winning the state on average by a likely comfortable margin of 6 to 7, at some point 8 percentage points. And I do think North Carolina is getting slightly redder, but the main thing here is Mark Robinson is really hurting Donald Trump. But, even if Josh Stein wins, because I do think he's going to win on the governor level by 5 points, a likely margin, Donald Trump is still going to pull out a victory of 2 to maybe 3 points in this state. But it will get close because of that Mark Robinson effect. And the last and final state before we end off this video is going to be Pennsylvania, the tipping point state, the deciding factor, the most important, interesting state this time around in most elections as well. As of right now, just like Nevada, it's a 50-50 tie for both candidates, but Donald Trump leads the tiebreaker narrowly with its 19 electoral votes. We take a look at the county map. Donald Trump, if he's able to flip Erie County and only went to Biden by exactly 1 percentage point, I do think he's on track to flip this state. Keep in mind that the margin was 80,000 votes, 1.2%. It went to Biden in 2020. And surprisingly, Nikki Haley in the Republican primaries got a lot of the vote share in Erie County specifically, but does not matter regardless because she has endorsed Donald Trump, so I don't think that's going to matter too much. And I also do expect Donald Trump to flip Northampton County. Northampton only went to Biden by 0.7%. That's probably another most likely victory for Donald Trump in that county. Bucks County is extremely important as well. If Donald Trump is able to make major improvements in the state, and if Kamala Harris, obviously, her performance is not in line or at least on par with Joe Biden in Pennsylvania, she's in jeopardy of actually losing the state. According to the polls, Donald Trump is literally within reach of winning the state. You take a look at RCP, he is actually basically almost winning this. So even if Donald Trump doesn't flip Bucks County, if he just makes it within 1 to 2 points, like half of what the 2020 margin, obviously, then he's probably going to flip this state. And obviously doesn't have to flip Center County. It went to Biden by almost 5 points. But if he is able to make gains, I do think he's going to, win this state in 2024. And Philadelphia and the Pittsburgh suburbs are extremely important. That's what, got Biden elected. In the state, he had skyrocket turnout. And I think the entirety of this election really comes down to the suburbs. Obviously, not the urban areas, not the rural areas, but it is the suburbs. And also, Donald Trump got shot in, Butler County, which is right next door to Pittsburgh. So maybe there is a reality in which Trump does have a lot of turnout in Pittsburgh County, some of these stronghold Democratic counties. Then I do expect him to flip Pennsylvania by probably 1 percentage point, if I had to make a guess, by a tilt margin. But I do have Donald Trump winning Wisconsin by more than he, will in Pennsylvania, which is kind of the opposite of what the polls are suggesting. But he will win the election, surpassing 270 electoral votes at 287, according to the Poly Market forecast. The Kamala Harris is 251 electoral votes. In my opinion, he's going to get 297 electoral votes because that's going to be Wisconsin, 10 more than what he is getting right now, according to Poly Market. But this forecast does change a lot. So, from a week from now, it's probably going to change. Maybe it'll go back to Kamala. But as of right now, it's basically a tie at this point in time. So let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. One last final reminders to subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss all my content. Press the like button, share this video. Also, don't forget, we have memberships, so you can find a link to that in the description section. Thank you, everyone, for watching.